It is such a pleasure to introduce Helen Fuentes and her amazing thesis today. Helen writes about non binary angels, terrible mothers, good mothers, pain, life, love, and she does it in a really beautiful, magical way that centers Latinx women and families and their dreams and their nightmares. I am so thrilled to be the chair of this project and so proud of the work that Helen has been doing over the past few years, honing her craft and creating a beautiful book that I hope she is very proud of. So, help me in welcoming Helen Fuentes.
Hello everyone, my name is Helen Fuentes and I am part of Fresno State's MFA program in creative writing. I want to take a quick moment to thank the members of my committee, Ra Jarrar, Benita Blackburn, and Stephen Church. Thank you to all my workshop peers in the creative writing program for the great experience. I also want to give thanks to my brother, my partner, and my sister for always believing in my writing. Many years ago, I never thought I would be here actively pursuing my writing dream, but here I am. For the young girl that had no hope, this effort has all been for you. My thesis is an exploration of love, motherhood, and magic. It is a journey of healing and overcoming the pressures and expectations of Latino culture as a son, a daughter, and a mother. It is about decisions we make and the consequences we reap. The short story that I will be reading is called If Only Death Could Take You. Mama cupped my hands in hers as she knelt before me, as if in prayer. She fixed her brown eyes on me, forlorn and distant. Her bone-straight hair had been pinned up with a clip. Her lips were tinted red. The air around us thickened like a poisonous fog, and my body stiffened under its pressure. Abuela presided over us like a lighthouse on a cliff, her gaze strong and her knuckles blanched. She bit her tongue because her words would be unkind. She stood by the kitchen island, far enough to allow Mama and I some distance, but not far enough that she would not be able to hear Mama's goodbye words to me. My chest hurt, my heart beginning to break and scrape apart like a pair of utensils grinding together. I knew things would be different this time. Something about the farewell felt permanent, and I hated it. Mama packed me a duffel bag, as she had many times before dropping me off with Abuela for the weekends. It always had 3 outfits, a pajama set, and my favorite dolls. There was room for more to fit, so when Mama picked me up, Abuela sent me off with extra treats or a new outfit we found walking around the swamp meet. The duffel bag she handed Abuela this afternoon was stuffed. There was no room for me to fit my favorite doll inside, so I had to carry it. Mama promised to come back soon, even though the bag said otherwise. I love you, Ale. I fell apart. Tears and snot poured from my face. My mind clouded with sadness, my chest full of thick air. I thought I would die. I attempted to cling to her, but Abuela held on to me. Outside, a honk blared. Mama's boyfriend Christian shouted, "Maria, hurry up!" Desperation filled Mama's expression. She scrambled to her feet and gathered her jacket from the back of Abuela's chair as I begged her to stay. Mama didn't look back at me. She didn't bother to say anything else to Abuela. She rushed out of the front door to climb back into Christian's black sedan. I don't know how Abuela managed to hold on to me, no matter how hard I fought against her bony arms. She clung to me, her hot face pressed into my small back, and hid her tears behind my sobs. Mama said there was a pot of roses in our hearts. Our flowers grew with love and care. Love watered the soil and care pruned the stems. She tapped my chest with well-manicured fingers as she cradled me on her lap and whispered, "When you were born, I planted those seeds." She held me against her tight, her lips on top of my head, her breath hot when she continued to speak. It was just me and you then. All my flowers had withered away. But when I knew you were growing in my belly, oh, mi amor, I felt the seeds sprout up. I stared down into my chest, expecting to see the pot of plants there, and my reaction to its absence made Mama giggle. I frowned, ashamed of having thought it was literal. She shook her head as she explained to me that it wasn't real, but that love was something mysterious. Mama hugged me tight while we watched movies on TV with popcorn and chocolates. This used to be our Saturday routine. We watched a movie I picked, and then we watched one she picked, even though I always thought her boring romance movies were bad. They simply weren't as exciting or colorful as some of the cartoon films I like to sing along to. Love is mysterious, but it exists, said Mama. It's weird, really. Falling in love is completely different. You never really know you're in love, but with you, I knew the minute I saw you. I knew I would never stop loving you, mi bebecita. It proved difficult at the start, when our lives before Christian were filled with moments like that, the kind that lingered in my mind. The ones that made me cry the most were the ones where I knew how much my mama loved me, when I was absolutely convinced that no one could love me like my mama did. Christian came into our lives when I turned 7. Abuela hated this thuggish boyfriend with his neck tattoo, shaved head, baggy clothes, and gold chains. Back then, my flowers were sprouts on the cusp of bloom, and had she stayed, they would have flourished by the eve of my next birthday. Once Mama stopped honoring our Saturday movie nights, trading them for club nights with Christian and his friends, I began to think I may have done something wrong. Mama used to come home to kiss me. The liquor strong on her breath made me scrunch my nose up and would promise next Saturday. But next Saturday came and another Christian-related outing took her away. She didn't even help me with my homework because she was too distracted talking on the phone to Christian or to a friend about Christian. It didn't seem fair, and it made me angry. Christian had seen it. You gotta stop being such a chicle. Your mama will hate you for being so clingy. He'd laugh at my desperation for my mama's attention by making jokes at my expense. Mírala, mírala, es muy celosa tu beba. Mama laughed and tried to hug me, assuring me that I had no reason to feel jealous. I'm not going anywhere. I'll always be your mama. Once I realized that Mama would not return, I felt the petals in my heart begin to break away. I used to wait by the living room windows, facing the street for the black sedan, for a glimpse of Mama's straight brown hair because I started to forget what her face looked like. Abuela did all that she could to comfort me. She waited for me to warm up to her. She cooked all of my favorite foods, took me to the swamp meet to buy accessories for my doll and a new doll to play house with because mine had lost all its friends. For the longest time, I asked when Mama would come home, and Abuela assured that it would be soon. Un día, no más despiertes, la encontrarás sentada a tu lado. So every time I woke up, I looked for her in the darkness. I searched the shadows of the room for the shape of her. I sniffed the air to catch even a hint of her perfume, the soft and fruity scent that radiated warmly from her sun-baked skin. I found the room empty, full of my disappointment. The twin bed grew cold without her presence, and sometimes I turned away from the doorway to weep into my pillow. My love flowed endlessly from my eyes. Abuela spoke animatedly about Mama once I stopped asking when she would come home. She offered me pictures of Mama in her youth. I asked to keep one and tape it to one corner of my mirror when I compared our faces from my periphery. I didn't look like Abuela, whose deep brown skin wrinkled around her eyes and mouth. I didn't have short white curls like clusters of clouds atop my head. I didn't have her small bony hands weathered by water or her small slight frame in a striped shirt and cotton shorts. Once the mocosos at school began to tease me about how my mama was old, I clobbered them until my small fists were bruised and throbbing, correcting them that my abuela was not my mama. Abuela picked me up from the principal's office many times in elementary school, growing more and more exasperated with the state in which she would find me. It was worse in the beginning, but I'd eventually gotten a hang of throwing a punch. The best of it all was learning to dodge. "Is that what you want?" demanded Abuela. You're just like your mama, picking fights when there's no reason to be. I'm not like mama. Abuela raised an eyebrow. No, she always came in covered in bruises because someone pulled her ponytail or someone laughed at her. I didn't know what to do with her then, and I don't know what to do with you now. I rolled my eyes. Abuela clicked her tongue in disapproval. What? I taught you better manners than that. Yes, Abuela. Mama became an adventurer then. She moved from city to city, explored the lives of others, and uprooted men from their homes. She settled in from time to time. Her feet were growing numb from walking nonstop. She had so much life left to live. Abuela took me in, but Abuela was not Mama. Mama looked nothing like Abuela. Abuela had always been a small woman, but Mama was tall and shapely. In the picture on my mirror, she leaned against a blue car in a short top and bell-bottom pants. She had curves and long, bone-straight hair. I used to burn my hair on the ironing board trying to get my hair that straight. Abuela laughed when I tried to get my makeup like Mama's, and she cleaned it up with the bottom of her skirt. She tried to fix it for me in the kitchen, and we sat there for hours after school, eyeshadow palettes spread over the island counter, attempting to recreate the look. She fluffed the brush over my closed lids. Your mama never sat as still as you, she said, laughter in her voice. She was constantly moving. I could never get her to sit still long enough to tie her hair in a ponytail. Abuela gave me proof of mama on every picture day at school with a ponytail too low or disheveled hair. We laughed together with these pictures. I could taste the sadness in Abuela's voice, the regret in her hands when she swept the brush across my lids or pushed into my hair. I wondered if it hurt more knowing I was nothing like Mama as she raised me. Sure. I picked the occasional fight, but she didn't get mad at me anymore. She preferred that I stood up for myself when someone tried to hurt me. But it took her years before she finally calmed my anxious heart enough to stop me from fighting with everyone that so much as looked at me weird. Did you do Mama's makeup like me? I asked. I wasn't fair with your mama, Abuela answered. I was strict, like my mama was with me. She was a woman of the church and never put a lick of makeup on. She said it was for putas. I remember the first time I wore a pinch of pink eyeshadow. She hit me with the belt in the patio. I begged God to stop her. She patted my cheeks with a smile, seeing the hurt in my eyes begin to reflect the ache in my chest. So I never did it again. I heard a lot from my mama and it wasn't good. Those kinds of things stick with you. Your mama's words. So when I saw Maria with her face done up for a backyard family party, I asked her to take it off. And when she questioned me, I told her what she looked like. She shook her head, her expression deepening the wrinkles on her face. I wanted to tear my own heart out after seeing her face. I was just like my mama then. Even without the belt, I didn't need to hit her to hurt her the same. I reached for her bony elbow and rubbed affectionately. Mama spoke wonders of Abuela, and I had grown up with a different woman. I never would have thought that Abuela could hurt her this way. I didn't know how to feel as we finished our session. We giggled at the results, but the conversation weighed heavily between us as if unspoken. I gathered my pellets, while Abuela tugged her apron on to start frying the chicken flautas she prepared and returned them to my room. My room faced the backyard. It used to belong to Mama when she was a little girl. She picked this room specifically because it faced the roses planted along the wooden fence. I imagined that she liked to count how many there were in each bush. I kept a list of how many we had each color because I think we had them all. Red, white, pink, yellow. I moved my bed to sit in front of the window so that I could love the things my mama did just as naturally. A murmur drew my attention from the window, and I caught as a bottle of perfume moved an inch on the vanity. I approached, unafraid of the suddenness. I stared into the mirror at my face and compared my eyeshadow to Mama's blurred face in the picture. I wondered if we looked alike now. I put my hands on the counter and dropped the perfume on the carpeted floor. Alejandra! I picked it up and smelled raspberries and sun-baked skin. I searched the room for Mama, my heart pounding. I swore I felt her presence. I began to feel Mama around the time I turned 17, 10 years since she had gone with Christian. I asked Abuela if she ever felt as if Mama was present in the house. She grew up here, Abuela said. To me, it's like she's never left. I feel her presence everywhere. But it's weird. ¿Cómo que weird? ¿Qué es weird, eh? Like, es muy extraño porque mamá no está, pero no está muerta. Abuela did the sign of the cross. Dios la guarde. I mean, she could come home any day now, I decided, if she wanted to. She could. Then it's weird that I feel like she's here. Yeah, that's enough. I don't like talking about these things. I smiled. Wow, so there is something you're afraid of. No, not something. The dead. I don't mess with the dead. Abuela almost sounded proud, but she became distracted in her kitchen. She had promised to bring red rice to a neighborhood barbecue that evening. An old friend of hers settled down in a house across the street, and her family were pretty festive, always celebrating something. They were related to Christian. Abuela's friend was his great aunt. That's how Mama got to know him. It was during the baptism parties or the backyard quinceañeras where the two had picked seats out of sight of everyone and laughed and drank until their flirtation was all the more obvious. The little we knew about Mama's whereabouts came from the old friend, Doña Hortensia, who loved to gossip. Hortensia was a warm, welcoming woman, and I enjoyed the ambience of the parties. The music was always good, and I loved to dance, even if it was with Abuela. Hortensia called the house to ask after the rice. Abuela hurried me to finish getting dressed. I went to my room to finish my makeup and tugged on a floral dress that once belonged to Mama. I cinched it with a belt to make it fit better, as Mama was a little bigger than I was at my age. I ran back to help pack the rice away in an aluminum container. Abuela made enough to feed the whole neighborhood, and when I mentioned it, we laughed on our way across the street. They were starting to set up when Hortensia let us in, and we began to help with the chair placements while the DJ, a young family member, started to toy with different songs to get the sound right. I gravitated towards him and asked what kind of music he planned to play. Whatever you want, bebecita. I startled, whirling around and pushed against the man that spoke behind me. Oh shit, the man chuckled. He wore dark sunglasses and thick silver chains around his neck. I recognized the stupid neck tattoos and the lecherous stare immediately. You're Maria's brat. Damn, te pusiste buenota. I wanted to barf. Hey, leave her alone, puto, the DJ defended. She's a little girl. Christian laughed. She don't look like a little girl no more. Abuela stunned us all when she grabbed Christian so roughly by the shoulder. ¿Dónde está? Who? Joked Christian. María, imbécil, ¿dónde está mi hija? He gestured to me. There she is, little Maria. Párale con tus pendejadas, Abuela snapped. The loudness of her voice had begun to attract others from within the house. Tell me where my daughter is. I want to talk to her. Well, she doesn't want to talk to you, he replied snidely. He clicked his tongue, his gaze steady on my Abuela. What do you care anyhow? She left you. She doesn't want anything to do with you or little Maria. He looked to me, the wound already reopening within me. You hear that? She didn't want you. Abuela struck his face so hard with her fist and I ran to wrap an arm around her middle, jerking her back when I saw him attempt to swing back. One misstep and we were on the ground. Abuela's small frame atop of mine as Christian guffawed. You only get one free shot, you old bee. He pulled a gun from the belt of his pants into our view. The next time I won't be as forgiven. Hortensia ran over with her husband, the older lady kneeling beside me and Abuela. The intimidating husband slapped the gun down, forcing Christian's hand to point to the ground. Get out. I told you to get out of my house. I hurried on my feet and helped Abuela up. She didn't flinch when he made it seem like he would lunge at her. She stood firm, her lips set in a deep line. My cheeks were wet with tears. I never realized I shed, and I went into Abuela's arms when she wrapped them around me to lead me back into the house at Hortensia's insistence. I sat her down and tended to the scratches on her legs and arms from when we fell. Hortensia apologized profusely. He shouldn't have been here. I asked him to leave as soon as he showed up. He's not welcomed here. I don't know who called him in. Their host went to the kitchen to get them something to drink and cleared the living room to give them the space from the noisiness outside as the rest of the men gathered to kick Christian out. Don't listen to a thing he says. Está bien pendejo. Abuela told me, attempting to dry my tears with the sleeve of her sweater. I wanted to step away from her, away from the clenching of my chest, from the emptiness of my stomach, from the tingling of my body. I became electric, chaotic. Abuela held me in place. She held me together. Your mama made a lot of mistakes in her life, but you weren't one of them. She would never so carelessly abandon you. She wouldn't. Then why'd she leave me? It ached to hear this. Christian's words rang in my ears. What did I do wrong? Why'd she go with him? Why'd she leave me to go with that guy? Abuela retained a silence that felt antagonistic to me, and I tugged free of her grasp, determined to ask the shadows of my mama in my room for answers nobody willingly gave. We didn't stay at the gathering. It wasn't that we felt unwelcome, but that seeing Christian again soured our moods. It wasn't strange that he was around. They were his family. He visited them once in a blue moon, but he never came with mama. So she stopped waiting to see the black sedan pull up, knowing that her mama would not be there. I waited until dark, refusing the food Abuela brought to me and ending conversations quickly. I sat until the moon peeked through the curtains and illuminated the center of the room. I expected to feel mama's presence as I had several times before, but the evening grew cold. The shadows danced as the moon followed its trajectory in the sky, but not one took shape. I bundled under the baby blanket I brought with me. I imagined it smelled like her warm body atop the scratchy knit fabric. It did when I first arrived at Abuela's house. I refused to let Abuela wash it. I cried when she even proposed it. Even after it had accumulated so much dirt that my allergies made it impossible to sleep, I wanted to cling to the ashes of her scent. A murmur stirred me from a dream. A cold hand pressed atop my head. I turned to stare into the void of a shadow, and my body prickled in goose flesh. I sighed against the touch, safe in it, and returned to sleep. Christian never returned to settle anything with Abuela. Hortensia let us know that he wouldn't be returning. Abuela asked Hortensia if she had heard anything about Maria and her whereabouts, but she merely shook her head. I don't know what kind of news we were waiting on. We never reported her missing because we knew one way or another that she would be returning home. Maybe she had already, and we never noticed. Was this wishful thinking? Maybe it would have been better if she had died. Not in that she was murdered kind of way, but in that she got sick and never recovered. If she had, I know that she wouldn't be coming back, that she was with God. Knowing she was alive out there, building a life without me, crushed me. I wanted to build with her for so long, but she only broke my heart. I met Mama again 20 years since she had chosen Christian over me. She appeared to me a translucent afterthought of the vibrant young woman that leaned against the car. Her hair was not a deep brown or pinned up. It sat limp and ashen above her thin shoulders. Her face lacked the warm roundness that plagued my nightmares. I dreamt of it, the first thing I had seen after memorizing the smell of her skin and the hot warmth of her flesh on mine after my birth and the cold stare she gave me when she left me. My heart sat like a stone in my chest. She startled at the sound of my voice, turning her melancholic gaze to me. She was translucent against the kitchen island. I longed to swallow the gas that escaped me. My astonishment, which had captured her attention. I would be 27 in a week, and the years apart from her wore off me like tree leaves in the fall. I stood before her, a little girl again, as she knelt at my feet, same as before. This time without Abuela standing over us, hiding the great sadness of my mother's decision. Mama's ghost reached for my wrist. Though her touch stabbed into my skin, chilled me to the marrow. I remember these hands being sweaty before, her skin smelling like she had walked underneath the strong sun for hours to reach this house. I remember the annoying honk in the background penetrating the memory. Her hot hands no longer rooted me to the floor of my abuela's kitchen. I did not die when she left. I grieved and questioned and asked the shadow of her why I was never enough to water those roses in my heart. Why it had to be Christian that did that for hers. Did he plant new seeds in her heart? Did she sprout marigolds now, or were they lilies? I stepped away from her ghost and prepared 2 cups of raspberry tea. I walked over to the kitchen table with 2 steaming cups and sat facing her see-through body. The seat across me sat apart from the table, ready to be occupied. She hesitated to sit the first few nights that I found her weeping in the kitchen, surrounded by Abuela's warmth. I continued to offer her warm drinks until she settled on the coffee. I talked mostly to myself as she cried in silence, her voice so distant I believe it would never reach me. I didn't talk about the past because I had, for the most part, forgiven her for it. I'm not mad anymore, I told her. I know that sometimes I wish that you were dead because at least then I would know you would never come back. I'm sorry for thinking like that. Abuela, my true mama, never left my side. She slept in the room across the hall from mine. She was an old, brave woman that didn't fear the living. She punched Christian in the face once too. I imagined that I wanted to do it too. Maybe that's why I fought so hard when Maria first left me. Maria finally met my eyes, hers watering with devastation. Welcome home, I told her, raising the mug to my lips, drinking deep of the cold tea. You've been gone too long. Mama has been worried. Thank you.